my name is Desiree, and this is my project on jigsaws as a strategy for teaching. Confucius once said, "Tell me and I will forget, show me and I may remember, involve me and I will understand." Group projects are a great way of getting your students all involved and using their individual geniuses to help teach and create learning environments that are positive for all students. As my outline, first we're going to understand what a jigsaw is, then we're going to go over how they differ from standard group work. Next we'll look at some limitations to jigsaws, and then we'll look at the role of the student and the instructor in jigsaws, how to create your own jigsaw project, and finally some hints on how to make them run smoothly. So what is a jigsaw? A jigsaw is a cooperative learning technique that has each participant responsible for completing and understanding one part of the whole. And I underline understanding here because each participant must then share his or her knowledge effectively with the group to complete the puzzle. Once the puzzle is complete, the whole new group, presentation group, has to give the presentation to the whole class. Jigsaws and standard group projects are quite similar in that they're both easily adjustable to class size and subject. They're simple to set up, they encourage cooperation, create positive social interaction within your class. But jigsaws also create an individual responsibility because each individual is responsible for part of the whole project. They have to understand one section of the jigsaw. It also helps students learn how to peer teach. The limitations of a jigsaw are as follows. So subject has to be concise and dividable into relatable topics. If it's not, the final presentations won't be very cohesive. Extra time is needed to rework information once placed in the final groups. It relies on peer teaching and is learner-driven, so this may be a problem if one student is dominant or shy and may affect their individual grade. Information will be missing if the students are absent on the day of presentation, and older students may not take to cooperative learning as easily because their history is competitive-based learning. The role of the instructor and the student. In jigsaws, the instructor is actually mostly just involved in organizing, observing, and evaluating, not so much in the teaching. The students are actually going to be the teachers. They will do the research, they'll teach their new presentation groups the information, and the presentation groups as a whole will teach the whole class. So it's very learner-driven. So step one in creating a jigsaw project is to choose a topic, again, that lends well and breaks into equal parts. So a quick example would be the functions of a heart. It breaks down into 4 subject matters quite easily. So you have group 1 would be assigned the right atria, group 2 right ventricle, group 3 left atria, group 4 left ventricle. And they'd be responsible for researching each. Step 2, the next step is creating research groups with equal numbers of students. So if you have an odd number of students, I wouldn't worry. It just means that in your final presentation groups you may have more than one expert on one piece of the puzzle. Each group is then assigned a section of the topic, which they research and write a summary of. So each group member makes a copy of the summary, which they will take to their presentation groups with them. The fourth step is to reorganize your students from their research groups into presentation groups with the completed information. So you'll have one student, or possibly 2, from each research group and put them into a new group, creating a whole puzzle. The new group then creates a presentation with the completed information, which each individual student will teach their group. So the person from group A will teach their group the section from group A about the right atria. And then they will teach the whole class the topic. So following the example, you'll end up with a whole heart. Once the presentations are complete, each student is then required to hand in an individual project summarizing the whole project, what the presentation was like, what they learned in the research, and this is where you get the individual marks. A few hints to make it run smoothly are: make sure you have group leaders for each group. This just allows for organization. Know your class, and if possible, try to create new social groupings. This encourages open-mindedness and lets your students be involved with new personalities. Allow for ample class time for both segments of the jigsaw. Float and make sure your students are understanding the subject at hand and answer any questions. Have a marking structure for reference that they can follow. And encourage your students to have open interaction and discussion throughout the project. As a final review, jigsaws are very group-based projects. They're learner-driven. They're used to create cooperative, positive social interaction. They create individual accountability, keeps group work fresh and interesting, and remember to allot enough time for each portion of the project, research and presentation, so your students don't get frustrated if they run out of time. And finally, my references for my project. Thank you for your time.